What's going on, guys? It's Swim here, and in today's Warframe video we are going to take a look at a secret item that you can obtain called the Manus Sumdali. Getting a hold of this item can be a very painful process, but I have a few tips and tricks to make this fight a little bit easier. I will also show off all the builds I used throughout the video so you can see what I used to complete this high difficulty challenge. This is not a new player friendly guide, since the enemies in this mission will be stacked and it will be extremely difficult for any new player to complete this challenge. If you are a new player, then I would recommend that you progress through the base game first and attempt this challenge later. With that being said, let's dive straight into the video. The Manus Sumdali is a secret item that was added within the Whispers in the Walls update, and to get a hold of this item you will need to complete the assassination mission Afervo on Deimos with the Steel Path modifier enabled. It is crucial that you attempt this in Steel Path and not the regular star chart difficulty, since the Manus Sumdali cannot drop as a reward unless you are in Steel Path. For the equipment, I would recommend that you use a Warframe with a high survivability rate. I went with Wukong Prime, but some other frames that can be useful during this fight are Revenant, Wisp, and Dante. You can also run any other frame that you are comfortable with, but these 4 frames are solid options. For the abilities, I have subsumed Oberon's Smite ability onto my Wukong, since the Murmur faction takes 1.5 times more damage from radiation, and I can stack on other elemental combos with radiation to increase my damage further. When modding for this fight, there are 2 crucial Warframe mods to use. The first mod is an augment mod for Oberon called Smite Infusion. When cast, all allies within 15 meters will receive an additional 100% radiation damage from any weapon that they use. This means that I don't necessarily have to run radiation on any of my weapons, but I can still get that 1.5 times damage to the Murmur enemies. If you want to know how to get this augment, you can purchase it from Steel Meridian or New Loka for 25,000 standing. The final mod you have to run is called Rolling Guard. This mod allows you to become invulnerable for a certain duration and removes all status effects. The boss, which is called the Fragmented One, has a bunch of attacks that can deal a ton of damage, so being able to time your rolls will save you a lot of stress. This is a mod that you don't have to max out, but the higher the rank of the mod, the longer you are invincible for. You can buy this mod for 20 Vitus Essence from the Arbitration Honors at the Arbiters of Hexus. Arcane Nullifier is also a really useful arcane to have during the fight, since the Fragmented One can use abilities that proc magnetic. So if you have a rank 5 Arcane Nullifier, you have a guaranteed chance to not get affected and lose all of your energy. It's not really needed, but it can certainly make the fight easier. When it comes to what weapons to use, the Incarnate weapons are your best bet. Most of the Incarnate weapons are really powerful and can be a tremendous help, since charging the Incarnate form gives you free ammunition to work with. I chose the Torrid Incarnate as my primary weapon and the Furious Incarnate for my secondary weapon. For the Torrid build, I went with a straight corrosive setup and also adapted a Murmur Bane mod to deal an extra 1.3 times damage to Murmur enemies. I also have a Riven for the Torrid, which gives an increase in multi-shot critical chance and base damage. For the Furious build, I went with a Pure Heat setup and also used the Murmur Expel mod for extra damage. Since this was a pure heat build, I also made use of the Cascadia Flare Arcane, which at rank 5 deals 12% extra damage per heat status effect, totaling to an increase of 480%. I also have a Riven for the Furious, which gave me a massive critical damage and critical chance increase, and combining both builds with Oberon's Smite Augment allowed me to deal both corrosive and heat, while also dealing radiation damage at the same time. Moving on to the focus schools, there is one school that will be the key to making this boss even easier to beat. I strongly recommend that you use Vazarin, since Vazarin focuses on healing and protection. You do want to max out the entire tree if you can, but if you haven't, then you should focus on unlocking these ways. Guardian Shell will be the main ability that you use to block incoming damage for you and your allies. This is really useful to use throughout the entire fight. Protective Sling is also very useful to have if you can't use Guardian Shell. All you need to do is Void Sling onto your allies and they will be immune from damage. Mending Soul is also important to unlock, since the first 4 revives are instantaneous, and you can also revive players 100% faster. This is crucial for the boss fight, but I will go over that a little bit later. Having access to everything on the focus tree and all the waybounds will help make this fight easier, but those 3 ways are a must-have to survive this fight. The mission itself is pretty straightforward, but instead of collecting 30 eyes that you normally would, you need to collect 60. Collect Atropos probes and head on over to the Vitrium. When injected, the Vitrium will reveal several eyes around the room. Once you collect 30 eyes, do not head towards the boss. Instead, you want to collect more Atropos probes and repeat the process until you have collected 60. Once you have collected 60 eyes, head on over to the arena to start the secret boss fight. Upon starting this fight, there are a few special conditions that are activated. The level of this fight will be adjusted based on how many players are present in the current session. When completing this solo, the enemy level will be set to 225. If you complete this with another player like I did, then the enemy level will be increased by 25 per player to a max level of 300. I would recommend that you complete this either solo or with one friend like I did, so the fight doesn't drag on forever. This fight also adds some conditions that Archon hunts have. Self-revives are disabled and the bleed out timer is reduced each time you go to a down state to a minimum of 5 seconds. The last gasp penalty also applies during the fight, where if activated it will drain 2 seconds with each use. Lastly, if all the players are dead then the mission will instantly fail. This is where Vazarin can shine. Those 4 added instant revives and the Guardian Shell / Protective Sling combination makes this fight considerably easier. The Fragmented one also has scaling damage reduction, which does make the fight a lot more difficult. But if you time your dodges and damage the boss at the right time, then eventually you will defeat it. Just don't rush the process. Now, don't expect to complete this fight on your first try. This boss has a ton of tricks up its sleeve. The Fragmented one is a combination of all the Fragmented bosses, the Anchorite, Suzerain, and Zealota. The Fragmented one also has access to all of their attacks, and if you are hit by them, they will inflict a unique magnetic proc that will siphon energy and will also cancel active abilities and disable them for 3 seconds. This is where Rolling Guard can nullify the damage that the boss can deal when all abilities are disabled. The Fragmented one has a bunch of attacks ranging from melee attacks to range attacks. Most of the attacks are telegraphed, so you can dodge them quite easily, but if you get hit, you are probably going to get staggered, so make use of your operator and their abilities. Aim gliding is also a key to dodging most of the attacks, especially when it comes to ground slams and laser attacks. You can also time your Rolling Guard to completely nullify any damage done to you with some of the major attacks. Dante's Overguard abilities can be a big help with maintaining your survivability during this fight. My friend was using Dante and he was focusing on clearing the continuous waves of Eximus enemies, while I was focusing on the boss. The Fragmented one cannot heal itself, but the Leech Eximus can heal the boss, so take out any Leech Eximus you see. And the use of Oberon's Smite ability and Augment also made this fight a lot easier, since we could stack Corrosive, Heat, and Radiation together, dealing a ton of damage. The boss is immune to Corrosive and Viral and any other effect except for Radiation, but Heat does actually stack, and Heat does really well against this boss. In the second phase, the Fragmented one gains a few new abilities that can be a pain to dodge, but most of the attacks are ranged attacks, so stay clear of them. The biggest thing you need to watch out for is when the Fragmented one enters an enraged state that is only available in the second phase. This state applies all players with a unique debuff known as Cascading Fragmentation. This debuff deals periodic damage and speeds up the boss's movement speed. Every 60 seconds from when the debuff was inflicted will continuously increase by 1 stack, until either the squad or the boss is slain. The only way to remove this debuff is to defeat the Fragmented one before the Cascading Fragmentation kills you. Upon its defeat, the Fragmented one will yield a single Steel Essence and the Manus Sumdali drop. You can equip this Sumdali by going into the Landing Craft tab and clicking Sumdalis. This is a unique Sumdali that proves that you have beaten the hardest boss in the game, and it does look pretty cool. Alrighty guys, so that is how to unlock the Manus Sumdali. Please let me know down below what you think of this reward. As always, if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, then please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been Swim guys. Later.